is muted. Welcome to XHP Live. I am your host, PR Director Lakeisha Brown. And today in studio, I actually have the Water Department Director, Damon Garrett. So today we're going to have a discussion. You will be able to have your questions answered live on social. So we are excited to bring this back one more time. And so we're looking to do this as a monthly thing. So please make sure that you tell everyone to join in and ask questions as we move forward with this. So let me bring up, there we go, our director for the Water Department, Damon Garrett.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing this afternoon?
So I am appreciative for you being here today. And I do want to just kind of talk about certain things that's taking place within the city of Highland Park. We know that there's construction going on a little bit of everywhere. And some residents are happy, some are not, right? Because it is an inconvenience. But let's just talk about some of the things that's taking place. And those that are watching, please ask questions. As you comment, I will be able to see those comments come up and we will be able to address those. So again, let's talk about some of the construction that's taking place right now.
Okay, so we had a very summer in Highland Park. So we were able to complete 3 master meter construction projects. It was all part of the same project in 3 different locations. 2 on Hamilton, 1 at McNichols, 1 at Webb, and 1 at John R. and McNichols. So we were able to get all of the 2 of those. The first 2 we were able to get done by July, and the third, John R. McNichols, we were able to get done by about a month ago, about mid-October. So as of now, Highland Park is officially metered on the water side, which is huge. Because that means that we may get some rate relief based on having accurate readings coming from our master meters as opposed to the estimates that were being used in the past. So that is very exciting. It was a historic moment. We haven't had metered water in Highland Park since 2012 when the plant shut down. So it's been 13 years. Actually, and the plant was shut down in November. So it's almost been 13 years to the date that Highland Park has not had metered water. And we've been trying to get back to where we are now. So that's exciting. And then in addition to that, we have a whole host of other water main projects going on. One is called the 23 water main project, which is all happening down in the south side of the city in the Tennyson area. We put in 2 new water mains, one on John R., one on Brush. And so we put those in along with a handful of lead service lines. That project is, I think, pretty much wrapped up. And what we have going on now is what we call the 24 water main, which we are installing 1,000 lead service lines, which is the most lead service lines that we've ever installed in the city. To date, it's probably equals the amount of lead service lines that we've installed since 2016, 18. So with this one project, we are going to double up the amount of lead service lines that we've been able to install, which is good, which is tremendous. That'll get us to about roughly 40% completion. So if you think, the city had all lead service lines back in 2018 to having about 1,700 installed at the end of in July 26 is tremendous. So that project is going on, which that one is probably, as Lakeisha said, it's probably got some people more, some people are loving it, some people are not. And the problem or the challenge with that one is that requires us to get into people's homes. So sometimes that goes well, sometimes it doesn't go as well for a number of reasons. But we're working through some of those issues. I know that there had been some people had some complaints about debris and whatnot from work boots being left in their homes. So I think we've got that situation under control. One of the other things people were concerned about was proper notification. A notification of construction, notification that you need to get into the house and do the work. So we've been working with our field staff to kind of clean that up, give people a proper notification. We had a contractor post something on Facebook last week about lead service line replacement, which actually turned out to be legit, but I don't know why he decided to take to Facebook to make the posting. We followed up with him, and he said that he was trying to get in contact with residents who had already been received a notice or allegedly had received a notice, and he wasn't getting a response. So he thought that was a good way to get a response. And then, people started thinking like, who is this? And is this for free? Is it legit? Is it not? So, we've asked him, even if, that work, that you can't go on Facebook and make those kind of posts, even if they are legit, that you need to come back to the water department and get our assistance on reaching our residents. So that's some of the bugs that we've heard recently. But like I said, then we've got the sinkhole project is also ongoing, which is a project where contractors going around the city and replacing sinkholes, which is much needed. It's kind of a patch job. It's not full on road reconstruction, but there are several areas where we've gotten reports about people in their vehicles not being safe to drive down streets and bottoming out cars and things of that nature. So that project is ongoing, and it'll be going on as long as the weather allows us to this winter. So a little bit of everything. Most construction has ever gone on in the city, but it's all progress, and we're excited to see what 26 can bring.
Awesome. So you did speak to just having the contractors come out. And I know that you mentioned as far as some of the water line replacements. And we talked about this before we came on air, but I did want to just kind of put it out there for people to know. So the program that's currently taking place as far as where people can actually receive those filters, the water filters, right? So there's a program in place for that, which allows for people to receive those when they receive their water line replacement. Can we talk about that program so that way people can understand why it's different now than it used to be, so that there's no discrepancy there?
Okay, so really the simple answer is there's two different programs. The prior program was funded differently. I believe some of those filters that we had were supplied by Wayne County. There was a duration period where we had access to those, and once that period expired, they took those filters back. So that was the first program that people were able to get filters. They weren't specific to a project. They were more specific to a need. If you didn't have a filter, you can get a filter. So they weren't tied to a project. So that was what happened with the first set of filters. What's going on now is this grant that Highland Park received to replace these 1,000 lead service lines. Each person who is receiving a new lead service line is receiving a filter as a result of that. So the people who are eligible are going to be all the people that are in that project area, which is south of the Davison, between Woodward and Hamilton and Glendale area, and then Woodward, Oakland, Davison, and Connecticut. So those, if people who are in those areas who are getting their lead service lines replaced are eligible to receive a filter. So we were not able to replace people's filters or give people filters that were in prior project areas because we don't have filters available to do that, and we don't have the funding to secure retrofit those people. So that's unfortunate, but that's what it is, and hopefully that will give some clarity to people on what's available now from a filter standpoint.
Thank you for clarifying that for me. So I know that this project it started, I want to say 22, 23, somewhere around there. I might be off in my years, but the project has been ongoing for quite some time. And how long do you foresee this project taking place? Because I know that it's a lot of lines that has to be replaced. The city is 2.97 square miles. So I know if we put that in terms of mileage, as far as water lines, I'm pretty sure that's well over that number. And so how long do you think that this project will last? Because I know that, again, it's an inconvenience to the residents at times because having to dig up the front lawns or the corners and trying to get home and construction and having to maneuver around all of that. How long will this take place?
So this current project right now is scheduled to be done in July of 26, which is the area that I was just talking about, Hamilton, Woodward, Davison, and Glendale, and then Woodward to Oakland, Davison, and Connecticut. So that project is ongoing, started this fall, and will go through the summer of next year. Now, to kind of backtrack on something you were talking about earlier, Highland Park has a legal obligation to replace all of the water main and lead service lines in the entire city. So that project started in 2018, and we're roughly about halfway done. So we've been replacing water main every year for the last 7 years, but right now we're tracking a 2031 completion date and it's for all the water main to be replaced. So we have another 5 years. I believe we are at about, after this project's done, close to 20 miles of water main, 25 maybe, somewhere in that range. And so we still have 40 miles to go. So we're trying to do as many miles as possible, but it's kind of, it seems like the more water main and construction we do, the more people are inconvenienced. So we're trying to balance. Actually, the project was supposed to be done before 2030, but we recently, just based on a lot of the feedback that we've been receiving, is we asked that we can try to push that out for another couple of years, try to provide some relief. So we've been doing a lot of water main replacement, but we still have quite a bit to go, another 5 years of this. So that's a lot left. But I'm hoping though that we've tried to increase our public outreach. We had a town hall just for this project a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks from Thursday. We have a town hall coming up this Thursday. So we recognize that because these projects have grown in scale, that we are inconveniencing more people. And so we definitely have to improve on our outreach and our communication, because more water main, more problems. They say more money, more problems. Well, more water main, more problems. So we just gotta be tight on understanding how this is impacting our residents.
All right. Well, speaking to that, because, okay, so I do recall recently, actually, that as the water lines are being replaced, it's causing additional issues in other areas, right? Because you may replace one line at one corner, and then up the street, the line, what's the proper term? It breaks, right? And so you have the water main breaks. And we've been seeing that happen over the past year or two. And residents are not too enthused about it because their water has to get cut off. And, again, here we go with digging up the lawns and moving in different areas outside of the project scope. Even if it was on the list, but maybe not on the list at that time. Can you explain just how those water main breaks actually happen? Because I don't think too many people have an understanding of the pressure and so forth. So can you speak to that, please?
Thank you. And I'm glad you brought it up because this summer, when we were in the middle of those first two master meter projects, we had water main breaks all over the place. It was probably the worst that it's been since 2016, since we took over the water department. So it was really bad. We actually had, I believe we had 3 boil water alerts, which prior to that, we hadn't had any. So, we had the first 9 years of being in the water department or running the water department with 0 boil water. And then in the span of like a month and a half, we had 3. So, and the reason for that was we had all those, well, we didn't have the lead service line project underway, but we had the 23 water main project underway. Plus we had both the master meter projects underway. And so there was a lot of fluctuations in the pressure in the system, which, by shutting off certain valves and opening other valves was isolating portions of the system where we had significant pressure drops. People were having trouble flushing toilets. And then you had, obviously we got older homes in Highland Park, but like, I even think it was actually the pressure changes were impacting some of the internal plumbing in people's homes, like on the second story. So it was kind of a mess in the summer, and it was hot. Okay, so it was a mess. But we think now that we've made all those connections, we've kind of gone back to what we were before, which is not really having, a sporadic water main breaks here and there, instead of like we were literally having one. We get notified about one, we go out to fix that one, and then another one's happening in the same day. Then we fix both of those, and then you get another one in 2 days. And when the Vista got torn up, I mean, it was just a kind of a circus. So all of that, I believe, is behind us now. Now that we have our master meter connections, all the pressures have kind of subsided, and we now have pressure monitors all over our system, which we didn't have before. So we went out and purchased these monitors where we're able to now check into those monitors through our mobile phones to see when pressure is lower in the area. So that might mean before you actually have a break, we can look at that and say, hey, pressure over here at 3rd and Davison or 2nd and Davison is looking like it's 32 PSI. Normally it's 38. Let's go check that out. We might have a problem. We didn't really have that before we started those master meter projects, but we did get some additional equipment. So that hopefully will help us have a much better handle on the breaks and all of that. So that was the breaks in the boil waters. Now, the restoration thing is an ongoing challenge. And mainly because construction is taking place, and how the contractor's doing it is he's doing restoration in batches. So, people's lawns are getting impacted by these new service lines, but then the restoration is not coming for months after that, right? And then you've got dust and things blowing around. So what we've been trying to urge the contractors to do was instead of doing it as the project as a whole, kind of break it down to smaller pieces so that we can take care of some of our residents much sooner than, people shouldn't really. Ideally, we don't want people to be waiting for 2 months for the yard to get torn up, and then all of a sudden it does get fixed at the end of the growth season. So now it's they did the work in like June, then they put the seed down in October, Now we're getting limited sunlight, and then it's got to sit all winter with like that, and then you got to wait till the spring. So then it ends up being, instead of what should be like a month to a month and a half, like 4 and 5 months. And people have been letting us know that they are very disappointed in that. And so we went to this new contractor that's working on these lead service lines and saying, hey, you know, part of it is communication about when this restoration is actually going to get done. People just sitting there like, hey, they did this, 4 weeks ago. Nobody's told me anything about anything. So part of it is just, hey, getting the message out to say, this is when this is happening. This is when you're scheduled. I mean, will help a portion of it. And then the other part is can we do something where we are doing this sooner than waiting till the end of the project? And people, if they're on the front end of the project, got their lead service line done, like, maybe even this fall, but then you don't get it replaced till June of 26. So we're just trying to figure out how we can have them work with their subs to get this issue addressed sooner than, like, if can we break it, like the people who were in the fall get done like in the spring, and then like can we be more creative instead of just waiting to the very end and calling up your sub and saying, okay, let's do restoration now, and you got people that have just, the lawns have been impacted for several months. So no, that's a problem, but we are trying to get them to handle the logistics of it differently, because they say, well, we didn't bid the job like that. Well, I don't really care, but I mean, we need this restoration to happen sooner than later. And if we can break it down with smaller pieces and get some people taken care of, it would help our residents tremendously. So that's what we're doing as far as the restoration goes.
All right. Well, thank you for addressing that. And I do have got questions because a lot of questions come up, especially during meetings, town halls, city council meetings, and so forth. So I want to make sure that we talk about some of those things and some of those issues. So let's talk about why it's important for these water lines to be replaced. Because again, we need people to be knowledgeable of the reasons as far as to why things are happening the way that they're happening. We know that construction, we've talked about this already. We know that construction is taking place across the city, but let's talk about the importance as to why this is happening across the city. So could you please kind of just address why the water lines have to be replaced, the importance of it, what this looks like in the future, and then as you talk about that, my follow-up question will come after.
Okay. So first and foremost, it's a health and safety concern. Highland Park's infrastructure is circa early 1900s. So it's almost 120 years old, and the water main is leaking. So what happens is, if you have an old system with several leaks in the system, that allows the pressure to go down. And what we don't want is bacteria to come into the water main, into the distribution system, and impact the residents. So the first and foremost reason is the water mains are being replaced because the system age, and it's a health and safety issue. We don't want people their health to be compromised by whatever is underground to potentially seep into the drinking water. So that's number one. Number two, the one that a lot of people probably want to know or should like to know, is so that these rates can go down. And we have to replace all of the distribution systems. So, one of the things that people have been talking about for a number of years is these ready to serve charges, right? People really despise the ready to serve charges on the bills, which are, associated with your meter size, and which are the larger portion of the bill. So if you have brand new water system in the entire city, then that ready to serve charge can be significantly reduced because the water main is new. So obviously as far as any maintenance and all of the things that go into delivering water in a newer system is much less of an effort, so that those charges can go down. So that is one of the major ones that's out there is everybody in the city knows that Highland Park's the bill that we receive from Great Lakes Water Authority, also known as GLWA, is extremely high. But that was based on, number one, not having any way to say it shouldn't be that. Well, now that those master meters are in the ground, now we can say that. Second part is the way that some of the charge allocation goes is based on, ready to serve and age of the water main. So now that the water main is about 30% replaced and on the way to at least 5, 6, 7, 8, 9% being replaced each year, that we should now be able to start to reevaluate the charges and see how we can provide some benefit to the residents. So those are the two main things: is money and health and safety. And then you said the last part of your question was, what does it look like in the future? Well, I can say that what it will look like is we could start paving some of these roads and get some of these roads replaced, because you replacing the infrastructure beneath it, then now we can start addressing the roads which are in disrepair. So that's kind of what the future looks like. Hopefully I did okay at answering the first two parts of your question.
That was perfect, because I just wanted for people to have a understanding of why things are taking place. And you actually hit on the second half, which was the bill, right? Because ever since everything hit the fan, right, there's been a lot of concern about the water bill. And so I want for us to kind of just talk about the water bill, what people can expect. There's issues with the storm runoff, right? There's also just the charges and the water charges, the sewer charges. And so people are concerned, and having the master meters put in will help to know what the city is using as far as the water, which could help the water bills go down. But can we talk about the water bill just a little more in depth, please?
So one of the main things that we probably need to talk about as it pertains to the bill is we have to start at the top, which is the bill that Highland Park receives, right? So before we can get into the individual charges of how those are built to reimburse the city for what is being used, we need to talk about the top. So the top is what I was talking about, is those master meters, right? And so right now we are in negotiations with GLWA about the bill that the city receives, the water portion of it, and the sewer portion, which is two parts, which is the drainage, which is the runoff that you talked about, and the sewer. So what's going to end up happening is on the water side, we now have a volume that is less than what GLWA anticipated our volume to be. Now I'm going to just take people back. When we got to Highland Park back in 2016, GLWA said that the water use, that the city's water use was 3.25 million gallons per day. 3.25. Now, mind you, when the plant was in operation, I think it was 2.2. So already we were starting in a negative position, right? So I know people there, some people out there believe that, the bills are all set so that, the water department can benefit and all these things. And like, we just set the rates where we want them to be so we can make money and all that fun stuff. Well, that's not true. Okay. So where we are today is we went from them charging us 3.25, and then we went down to 2.11 a few years ago. So when we were going through this decade lawsuit, we started, making arguments that this is way out of whack. So we started 3.25, we went down to 2.11, and then we convinced them that we had all these water main breaks, that we had fixed a significant amount of leaks in the system. And then we went from 2.11 down to 1.58, and 1.58 is where we were in 2023 with the lawsuit. And now what we're negotiating is 1.0. So the actual use that we have coming across our meters right now is anywhere from 0.95 million gallons per day to 1 million gallons per day. So that's where we've come since 2016, over the last 9 years in this lawsuit. And now we have these master meters. So now what we're asking is, can we have our charges adjusted to reflect what our actual use is? And I know people say, well, what about the retro? Now that we know that they were overcharging, are we going to get, reimbursed for all of that overbillage? The answer is no. And the reason why is because a lot of this was tied up in this litigation, and people have talked about it at many, many council meetings about Mr. Garrett said that he was only going to raise the rates for 6 months and then they were going to go back. Well, what happened in 2023 and 2022 was all of this perceived debt, as you see where we are right now. Highland Park has not grown in population since this started, right? So I hope people see that they were significantly overcharging the city, and they created this debt of $54 million that they were threatening to put on the property taxes and take people's homes from them. That was all predicated on, hey, you guys are using this amount of water, and no, we really weren't, okay? So that debt got wiped away, and the state said, hey, we're going to give you $100 million. $5 million of that were to get these master meters in the ground, and the balance was to replace all the water main. So that's from the water side on at the top. That's where we are with the water. And now what we're trying to do is get our bill revised so that we can share some of those savings with the residents, which trickles down into the rates, into the, because if GLEWA's bill is $10, we have to account for the expense to maintain the water and pay GLEWA back the $10, just in layman's terms. So we don't get to say, yeah, we think the bill should be $2 and then create $8 of debt. So all of those charges that come on the individualized bill are based on basically paying back GLWA for the water that we actually use. And just so people know, I did a couple presentations during rate setting this year. Well, not this year, but last year. And right now, from the water department standpoint, GLEWA's bill is 65% of all of Highland Park Water Department expenses, 65%. So basically almost the whole water department, or the majority of it, is here just to pay GLWA. That's just so hey, MCA wants to, do this for the trucks and all that fun stuff. I wish that we were doing that, but we're not. Okay. So that's on the big thing. So I'm hoping the formal rate setting, we're meeting with them before the end of the year to say, okay, this is what the new water charge is going to be. And then hopefully by June, by rate setting of next year, we will be able to revise these rates and show the relief based on all this work in progress that's taking place. Now that's the water. Now, everybody doesn't like the runoff. They don't like this runoff charge. Okay. So the other part of this is the sewer. Sewer is two parts. It's the sanitary, which is, the toilets flushing, showers, the dishwasher, all that, and then stormwater. So we have a combined system. We have runoff when it rains, and then we just have our water use that returns back into sanitary. So everybody's big contention is that runoff charge, right? What people need to understand is the sewer portion of the bill for Highland Park is also overstated, and it's actually much more overstated than the water was. So the bill right now is like $5.5 million for sewer, $1 million for water. So everybody's like water, 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 water. But we also have a sewer issue to deal with too, which the sewer, why I'm bringing that up is because we get billed by the amount of volume that gets into the combined sewer system and goes down to the plant in Detroit. So again, Glee was giving us a bill telling us we got this much sewer leaving our system, and we're saying no, we don't. So we're not as nearly as far along with the sewer as we are with the water, but we do have 19 meters in the ground in the sewer system, and we are and have been measuring the amount of water that leaves our sewer system since, well, they're recognizing since July of 2024, but those meters have actually been in the ground since 2022. So they've been in the ground 3 years. So right now we're arguing about the data. They say Highland Park has 5.25 million gallons a day leaving for sewer. We say it's more like 3. So again, so what does that mean? Well, they send a bill for 5.25. And what happens is we have this runoff charge, which is a portion of the impervious surface that runs off of all the individual homes. And we set the drainage fee based on that so that we can pay back GLWA. So those are the facts. You can believe what you want to believe, but I'm telling you, I'm in it every day, and I'm telling you this is what's going on. So a lot of progress has been made, and I'm hoping that in the next 5 months we're able to say, hey, look, our sewer bill our usage for sewer has been reduced from 5 million gallons to like 2.8. That's great. That's almost 50% of what it is. So, that $5 million bill that we're getting, we're hoping to probably be able to save, I want to say a couple $1 million, but and if we save a couple $1 million, then obviously that can get shared with the community. The one thing I want people to also keep in the back of their minds is this whole gentrification fear and thing going on out there. But we do also need to understand that we do need users on our system to disperse those costs amongst more people. So right now we got 8,000 people, and we got them making up all this usage that we don't have. So once we get this usage down to what it actually is, if more people are coming into the city, we can even level those charges out even more. Because if you got charges of over 100 users versus charges over 300 users, well, if you take $300 and divide it down by 300, it's much cheaper than $300 divided by 100. So just on simple mathematics, if we get more users on the system, then those ready to serve charges and all that can get allocated to more users. So I know that's a lot of stuff, but in a summary, we get a big bill from Gleewood that we're in the process of getting reduced, and those savings will be shared with the customers. That's just on the simpleton, like not understanding runoff, combined sewers, and all this stuff I'm talking about. We got a big bill that we're getting reduced, and when the bill gets reduced, the charges get reduced. That's like the simpleton, like, hey, the 2-minute version of all that I just said. That's what you need to hear.
Gotcha. So we did have a question from Miss Alexis Ramsey. So she wanted to know, what is the lead service line replacement program agreement? She says there's a lot of misinformation out, and she like clarity directly from the water department.
Well, I don't know what the misinformation is that she's speaking to, but when she says the agreement, all I can say is right now we're replacing 1,000 lines. We're supposed to have all the lines replaced in the city by the law by 2041. That's the statute that's out. The lead service line replacement statute is all lead service lines have to be replaced in these communities by 2041. We will have ours replaced 10 years prior to that. But like maybe it's like she's speaking to who's responsible for what under this program. This funding is responsible for replacing all of the lead service line from the main all the way into the home. That's part of this agreement. There has been some conversation about, well, what happens if I don't replace my lead service line as a part of these projects? So what we're mandated by the law to discontinue service if you refuse to have your lead. So if it's the projects on your block and you have a lead service line and you say, Lakeisha says, I don't want my lead service line replaced, by law, we're mandated to discontinue the service, because if you have a lead service line and the water main has been replaced and the other lead service lines have been replaced to copper, now your lead service line is connected to the distribution. So you're putting others at risk by still being connected. So, there have been some conversations. I think the message was wrong. Like, what we heard from the town hall was, it was like a threat, like, if you don't do this lead service line replacement, you're going to get slapped with the $10,000, to replace it. And I think that was the wrong messaging. I think what people need to hear is it's about right now $8,000 to $10,000 if you were to go replace your lead service line on your own. What should be discussed is that take advantage of the funding that has been provided to Highland Park, and you as a resident to take advantage of the program. Even though that means somebody's gonna come in the house, all those things, but it's bought and paid for by somebody else, not by you. We're mandated, if it's on your block, to do it. So at the point that you deny it and you say you don't want it, then you become responsible for it. So, and then if you still refuse to do it, there's a step further, which they will force us to disconnect that service line from the new distribution system. And that's all based on health and safety. It's not like trying to force people into doing something they don't want to do, but it's not good for your health to maintain and have those lead particles, coming into through your faucet to you and your family, or coming back into the distribution system to other people. So hopefully, I'm not sure. I'm hoping that I touched on that about the agreement, but that was the best I could do.
Okay. I know she also stated that she's reading online comments and opinions. And so she wanted clarity specifically from the department directly, just to address the issues that's been taking place in regards to the service line replacement. So I hope, Alexis, that touched on what you were looking for. If you have a more specific part of the agreement that you would like information on, please let us know. We have about 10 to 15 minutes left before we have to move, and we can bring the water department back at some point, but we are moving amongst the administration. Okay, perfect. So Mr. Alexis said understood.
No, but I just want to commend her, because there is a lot of conversation that goes on, like she's talked about, on the interwebs and Facebooks and all of that. But I appreciate her having access or taking advantage of the access to me. We're in City Hall now. I would encourage people, if they want the factual information, to come seek the factual information. I know that people believe that they just putting out what they want us to know, what they want us to hear. I'm going to tell you straight up what's going on. I want you to have the facts. I don't. Some people might get part of the story. They might be partially right. Some people might be intentionally misguiding people. Some people might unintentionally be doing it. I think it's a little bit of both. But I'm happy that she's coming and wants to get the real answers. Like, if I've been on with you before, Lakeisha. Like, if you want to know about the bill, if you really want to know what the radiation surcharge is, then let's talk about what it is, so we know what it is, and not believe the person 3 doors down that maybe has an axe to grind, or has some other agenda, or they've been misinformed and then misinform others. So I appreciate her coming to here. And if people want, come to City Hall, leave your questions there. If the girls can't do it, they'll get in contact with me. It's very important that people receive the proper information.
Absolutely. And I think that's another reason why Ask HP Live was created, because I wanted to create an atmosphere where people would feel comfortable asking the questions that they wanted to ask directly to the department head so that they can have their answers questioned in real, their questions answered in real time. So I am excited that you guys were able to make it and be on Ask HP Live, because it's imperative for people to have the correct information and be knowledgeable about the things that's taking place here in the city of Highland Park. And before we go, because we are short on time now, you guys have held your own town halls, water town halls, and so forth. Can you speak to the last, I think it was a Zoom call that you guys had, or wait, hold on. Give me 1 second. We just had a question pop in. So I think we talked about this earlier, but if you could just briefly, could you estimate when the project will reach Eason? He's taking a look. So no problem, Alexis. I appreciate you for jumping on and asking the question. So it was great. And we hope more people get engaged as well.
So, okay. So this particular project will not reach Eason, this one here. But what I think the question is future of the remaining water main that's left. So when is that going to get back up onto the north end of town? And that's where Eason is. I don't have that answer, but what I can do is I know we have some maps that kind of rough in like the project areas over the next out to that 2031. Mm-hmm. And I think what it would be, I think it would be helpful to kind of get that posted, like just to even not anything in particular, but just put like 2020 anticipated 2027 to 2028 anticipated over here, and then people could see where they are and they could. So I think I like that. I'll go back to the department and see if we can get a map that we can get up on the city website and that we can distribute just about like what the water main projects look like over the next several years. Just really generic, like here with the note, like subject chain based on block, but just give people an idea. So that's a fair question. We can do that. We can hook them up with that.
Awesome. So it will get posted on the website. So please, she said it was about the service line. Yeah, we'll get it posted on the website. So that way you can have some idea of when it will reach you on Eason. So before we answered that question, I wanted to just talk about the town halls that the water department was hosting, because you guys have been doing your own town halls. And I'm not exactly sure as to the participation from the residents, but we want more residents to get engaged in these things, because in order for certain projects to go forward, we would love to have feedback from the residents. So could you speak to that for me?
Yeah, so we've had, I think, a total of 3. So earlier this year, we had our first at the fire station. I'm not really sure what month that was, but it was hot outside. So I'm in the master meter projects. I don't think they had started. So I want to say June, late May, June-ish, because the water main breaks, the rash of breaks hadn't started, because they would have tore me up in that, and they didn't happen yet. So I know that had to be in June. So we had that one, which we had a pretty decent turnout at that one. A lot of people were concerned about the bill and the charges was really what the crux to that one was. And then we had another one at the rec center. That one was, I want to say, early fall, because I believe that it may be August-ish, because the master meters, the second one, was just getting ready to get underway, which started in July. So somewhere July, August, we had in town. That one was not as well attended as the other one. The questions were more general. I mean, it was more about, there's a lot of questions about, hey, are we getting refunded like these master meters going in? Is it going to be, you credited my bill? There's a lot of that. And then we had the virtual town hall that was associated with the lead service line project that was 2 weeks ago from this Thursday coming up. So those are the 3 town halls that happened this year. So what we were trying to do is have at least one a quarter. So the goal was to have 4 of them in a year, but we wanted them to be centered around, events that, were like, one was like the kickoff of the master meter. Then the next one was kind of like, hey, the master meter's almost done. And then the other one was, hey, we getting ready to do the most lead service lines we've ever done in the city. So next year, we should probably do one in the early spring. We can address some of these restoration things, as the weather turns. We can provide an update on the sewer stuff. We should be getting ready for rate making. So we should be like, hey, what happened with the GLE at the end of the year? Hey, what happened with the sewer? You guys were just getting into the sewer. Where you at with the sewer? What's going to look like when these new rates come out? So I think March, April would be a good time for that. And then we'll think of a couple other times. We got projects starting, Glendale starting in the fall, which is a water main project and resurfacing of Glendale. We got Manchester that's going to happen in the fall as well. And then we're going to have Oakland next year. Next year is 27. So I think spring, we got to get one. Then we got to get one in summer before these paving projects start. Should be having some of this stuff wrapped up. So what we probably should do is we'll meet internally and maybe put out a rough calendar, right? Just like, hey, we think we're going to have, these are the dates around, here. So people can know, okay, we're looking at spring, summer, fall, and so we can get people to think in that way and communicating. And that's a place where we can have some of these one-on-ones where we can, council's probably not the best place. I know people want to do it. That's fine. But we can't have a back and forth, and it's not
right.
really interactive there. It's like, you come and say, hey, you guys are this, that, and the other, and they don't really want us to respond there. So we want to respond. So come to City Hall, come to the town halls, and then we can do the one-on-one. We can get into the details and we can get all the facts.
Thank you for addressing that, because I do want to make sure that people are, again, well informed, because it's important, right? And I know that next year it's going to be projects happening, so we'll get a rough calendar out. The town hall that you guys did a couple weeks ago is listed on our YouTube channel. So if you're not following the Highland Park YouTube channel, please make sure you do so. When you go to YouTube, you can type in @MI Highland Park and find the YouTube channel there. And it is posted and listed in our videos, the playlists and whatnot. So take a look. Is there anything else that you could think of that you might want to say or address before we get out of here?
I just want people to really understand that what is taking place and what is taking place in Highland Park in the last several years is amazing. It's been a rough road. I know that the residents have been impacted significantly, but to receive the amount of money that we've received, to get through the lawsuit, to get the master meters, to get this bill looking right, like that is huge, right? That's setting Highland Park up for the future. So I just want to thank the residents for all their patience, and continue to complain and be boisterous. I mean, we need to know that you're disappointed in these things so that we can be better, right? We're not perfect out here, but I want you to tell us. Don't tell your neighbors. Tell us. We can stand there, take it, and then we'll be better. So I just want to thank the residents for all the support that they've had for the water department. You don't really hear about it, but I think I feel the support. And even though I know there's people that are disappointed about things that are going on and things, rates and this, I think that they've supported us and we've been in this battle together. So I just want to thank the residents. Thank you very much.
All right, awesome. So again, thank you guys for tuning in to Ask HP Live. Today was with the Water and Engineering Department. We covered a whole lot. And the good news is you'll be able to go right back and view this later. So if you have questions if you have additional questions or something just comes up to the top of your mind later, please post it in the comments. And if possible, I will make sure that those questions get over to the water department and I will respond to them. I'm given a week's notice. So we got a week timeline that I'll be able to pull up those questions and get them over to the water department and get those answers for you, and then post it under the question that you asked, the answer rather. So next month we will do another Ask HP Live. Which department? Don't know yet. But if you follow the page and if you are subscribed to the text and email updates, I will definitely put out a notice when we actually have a date and the department. So again, thank you, Alexis. I appreciate you. We are working to make sure that we bridge the gap as far as communication amongst the administration and the residents. So I hope that this is a good way of doing so. And thank you again for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next time. Bye.